So I got some new stones. Picked this one up at a local shop. It's the Suehiro chemical stone. They had it labeled as an 800 grit, and I didn't do any research on these before I purchased it. That's actually the part number. It's not the grit of the stone. The actual grit of the stone is 320 grit, which is a big damn difference. Anyway, I picked this stone up, wanted to give it a try. And also seen on Chef Knives to Go, they had this new Suehiro Cerax 700 grit. So I grabbed it and figured I'd go ahead and try out the entire lineup and just get a 3-stone setup. So I got the 1K combo with the 6K, which is this stone here. Now these two stones are the Cerax. They are labeled as ceramic style stones, so I'm going to assume they're like the Sharpening Pro and coarser or nanowatt professional. Whereas the 320 stone is more of a traditional stone. Now I've already used this one. I lapped off the top layer because it wasn't cutting very good. It had some sort of some kind of film across it, so it was just horrible cutting. This is an extremely soft stone. It's so soft, in fact, that I actually dropped it maybe 3 inches onto the counter, and I chipped out a corner. Now I've taken sandpaper to it to just round it out so there's no jagged edges, but it took a pretty big chunk out, just barely dropping this stone. So this is something I'm totally not used to. I'm used to really hard stones, not really soft stones. I'm used to being able to, move them about, but I don't know. I'll have to play with this one to get a feel for it. My first impressions, though, I don't like it. I'm not a fan of soft stones. I don't like how they feel. I don't like how they wear. It produces a lot of mud, which is real nice. It can refine your scratch pattern very well. So if you have deep scratches from, say, a diamond stone, that stone can remove those scratches pretty well. It's good for that sort of thing. But if you've got a small bevel, like a V bevel on a standard pocket knife, because the stone is so soft, as you're grinding into that edge bevel, you can kind of dig into the stone a little bit, which causes the stone to gouge, which causes it to wear even faster. So that can be a problem. I would say primarily it's going to be good for large beveled knives, like what do you call them, a yanagi, or if you're thinning a knife, that sort of thing, Scandi grinds. If you're doing a straight V bevel though, I would choose something different. Now I'm going to let these stones soak for probably another 10 minutes or so, and once I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and start thinning this knife out a little bit more. I've already started on it a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and go through these, well, it's 4 stones now. I'm just going to go through these 4 stones and see what it looks like, and then I'm going to put an edge on the knife. I may not film the whole thing, but I will hit the highlights. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out just flattening these bevels. I'm going to put pressure towards the cutting edge, but I'm laying the entire flat of the knife directly on the stone. This is the 700 grit. I have not used this stone, so I don't know how it's going to react. It may have a coating on the top, it may not. We will find out together. Here's where we are as far as the scratch pattern goes. Let me turn this light out. See if maybe that'll show up a little better. I can already tell you it's a much harder stone. Much harder. And I think it does have a coating on the top. Well, I hate to lap through it. I'll tell you what, let's try this little cleaning stone they send with it. We'll see how it behaves now. Much better. The steel doesn't feel like it's slipping. It feels like the abrasive's actually grabbing hold of it now. Before it was just a really slick. Now I said it felt much harder than the 320, but it still feels like it's got a little softness to it. It's hard to describe. I'll be able to tell more when I actually start putting an edge on the knife, going across that little edge bevel will tell me whether or not it's digging into the stone or if the stone is hard enough to resist gouging. So this is the 700 grit finish. Alright, this should be a little more interesting. Put the final edge. show you again where we are. It's cutting, but that's just because it's so thin behind the edge now. I mean, you can plainly see light reflecting back from that guy. Turn that out. Well, maybe we need that light. You can plainly see light reflecting. So this edge is flat, flat, flat. There's a ton of feedback on this stone. If you listen to it, I'm going to make sure I go over and under the angle so you can hear what this stone sounds like. So I'm not going to talk, I'm just going to sharpen and listen for that sound. Nice, I stabbed it. So I still got a little bit of light reflecting back here and right here. If you're wondering why it's taking so long, I am actually having to cut a new bevel in. Since I've thinned this knife out, I pretty much destroyed the bevel that was there. So I'm basically having to grind in an entirely new bevel. So I'm having to go through all that steel to get down to the edge. So it's taking a little bit longer than just putting the knife on the stone and, you know, whipping up an edge on an already, with a knife with a bevel already established. Plus I'm using almost no pressure. I'm trying to let the stone do all the work because I want to see how fast it cuts. And so far I'm not terribly impressed. It's not bad, don't get me wrong. For a 320, it's about what I would expect, but it's nothing it's nothing extraordinary. It's very predictable, which can be a good thing. I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm not overly impressed with the speed. And I'm damn sure not impressed with how soft it is. I've already gouged it a couple times, I can feel. Alright, finna start scrubbing. I don't know if you saw that, I just gouged the stone. Put too much pressure down. This is where I was saying this soft stone may not be the best stone to choose for a V edge, especially a V edge you're trying to set a new bevel in. think I got it. Got just a little bit of an issue up here in the belly still. Could be a burr. See, we're at 14 minutes. That finally got it. Come back on the one. This is a 700 grit. I went ahead and cleaned it off a little bit. Tons of feedback. Definitely harder than the 320 stone. I'm liking this one. I gotta say, I dig this one. Alright, let me see if you can gouge this guy. Seems to be pretty resistant to gouging. You'd really have to put some pressure down to get it to do that. It's hard. It's nowhere near as hard as, say, a Shapton stone, but if you've ever used a Shapton 320, I put it right there with it. It just doesn't feel quite as porous as the 320. It feels a little more dense. There's a little more stone underneath you. I don't know how to describe it, but the softness as far as how it feels underneath the edge feels like the 320 stone from Shapton Pro. Just tons of feedback. Still got a little bit of a problem up here in the belly. It looks like that got it. I'm going to bring you guys down and let you get a look at this 700 grit bevel. That's the stone after just rinsing it off. Very little loading. It does look like there's just a tad bit of wear, but I've put quite a bit of use on this stone tonight. I can just begin to start to see just the smallest amount of concave. Anyway, I'll bring you guys down here for a second. Alright, so this is 700 grit. Let me turn this overhead light out and see if this will help us any. That's where I dropped my angle on that 320 stone to show you guys the feedback. That's not bad for 700 grit, guys. That's really nice, actually. Anyway, I'll get reset up and we'll come back on the 1K. Alright, this is the 1K. Again, tons of feedback. Lots of feedback. Another hard stone, but not hard like a Shapton. Well, maybe a Shapton 1K is around a similar hardness. It's hard to describe though. It's almost like you can feel the stone releasing abrasive though. You know it's cutting. It's really difficult to describe. It's not scratchy, but you can definitely feel the abrasion. It's a nice stone. I could see myself using this. That 320, on the other hand, I'm not too fond of. I think I'm in love with that 700 though. The 700 was just awesome. Let me see if I can gouge this one. Yep. So this one's got a little softness to it. You can definitely gouge it. It doesn't feel like it though as you ride your knife across. And again, it's got a nice hazy bevel. I don't even think I can make the scratch pattern out. It's difficult. It's really difficult, but it's just a hazy. Let the lighting adjust. It's just a hazy bevel. Well, of course it's not going to cooperate with me. That's a nice 1K edge. And as for load up, well, there you go. Not much load up at all. This is the 6K. Now this one you can tell is a little softer. It's got a creamy feel to it, but it's got that softness. You know, it's very easily gouged. So you want to try to keep your angle as true as possible. We'll see if I can fix up the main bevel here where I scratched it. Very pleasurable stone. Like I said, it's got a creamy feel to it. It's really nice to use. I can tell if I raise my angle too high or too low, I'll gouge it. But I think it's hard enough that it can be forgiving if you don't go too far over or too far under. And again, it's got a hazy finish. Load up, minimal. I'm going to do some really high passes. And drop it back down. Now I'm going to do some strop. Now you may ask yourself, why did I do that? I'm working with different techniques trying to figure out the best way to remove a burr and still get high edge performance. Looks like I might have took that one a little too high. Okay, so here's the edge off the 6K. It's got a hazy finish. There is a little brightness to it. If you strop that, it'll probably brighten right up. And as you can see, the main flats here, they still got that haze. And we'll do a cut test. And this is right off the stone, no stropping. Feels like I got a little bit of a burr or something going on. And sure enough, that brightened up. It brightened up the polish. Now I'm going to go ahead and strop the main bevel. Just to blend everything in. This side turned out pretty nice. This side's just splotchy. I need to spend some more time on this one. But there you go, you can see what the finish will look like if you're thinning a knife or sharpening a single bevel blade, for example. Definitely use some more work, spend a little more time, but I think my videos are long enough. I probably put most of you guys to sleep. Nice and thin. Not quite where I want it to be, but it's getting there. My buddy Dave is back on YouTube. He was showcasing a Spyderco that he reprofiled, and he called the edge Hiragami, or I don't know, some weird Japanese slang term. I'm going to talk to him later and find out if that edge can be recreated on a flat bevel, and if so, I'm going to see about either putting this knife in that configuration or possibly my my other Ganzo, just to see if I can do it. Anyway, there's the Suehiro stones. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.